You said this morning that this was,
Thank
quote,
you.
the most successful ad in the history of North America. Is the additional 10% tariff on Canadians also part of that success?
We got a serious problem over at CNN. CNN used to be kind of my go-to middle-of-the-road news that I could rely upon for decent analysis, but actual accurate reporting. And that is just not the case anymore. The organization has changed hands. They have new leadership. And it's through that leadership where everybody in the higher echelons of power and influence in the organization are vying to keep their jobs. And by the way they're vying to keep their jobs is ass-kissing Donald Trump. From Mark Thompson, who I'm going to talk about next, to Jake Tapper, who in this clip is attacking the premier, which is like a governor in Canada, Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario. He's a conservative. Not conservative as in like a Republican, although they're Republican. The Conservative Party in Canada is kind of like what the Republican Party was 30 years ago in the United States, or even beyond, 40 years ago in the United States. That's the kind of conservative they are. And Doug Ford, I talked about it yesterday, ran the commercial that included the words of Ronald Reagan to kind of sound the alarm and educate Americans about what Ronald Reagan believed about tariffs. They ran an accurate ad that got like billions of imprints online, very successful. And Jake Tapper is interviewing Doug Ford and pretty much is just acting as though he's a Donald Trump surrogate. He's on team Donald Trump. He wants to attack Doug Ford for this effort. I have two clips here. We're going to kind of go in reverse order because the most egregious one I want to play for you first. And it's Jake Tapper directly asking this Canadian politician, categorizing making the ad as stirring the pot. The question is, do you regret stirring the pot, that's a presupposition that the pot was stirred, and making things harder for your fellow Canadians? This is a question that you would expect from a Pete Hegseth type, a Caroline Levitt type, a Stephen Miller type, not from an actual bona fide legitimate journalist, which Jake Tapper is no longer. Watch this, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Canada's unemployment rate, as I'm sure I don't need to tell you, is now at its highest point in 9 years. Do you have any regrets about stirring the pot, possibly making things harder on your fellow Canadians due to this retaliation from President Trump?
No, I don't believe so. The person that started this whole thing around the world, not just with Canada, is President Trump. And the American people are finally feeling the effects of tariffs. And it's going to continue. The more tariffs, it's more of a tax on Americans and less jobs for America. If anyone reads into many speeches Ronald Reagan did after the free trade agreement with Canada, with former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, which is no longer with us. He was one of my mentors, and he created more jobs, not only in Canada, but also in the U.S. than we've ever seen. Again, protectionism does not work. We want to create more jobs in the U.S., more jobs in Canada. I believe in the AmCan Fortress, which is the American-Canadian Fortress. And let's be the wealthiest, richest, safest two countries in the entire world. We have so much to offer the Americans that we give them, no matter if it's our oil or our uranium or our potash that keeps your agriculture sector, or nickel, high-grade nickel from Ontario. And the auto sector, they're losing billions of dollars every year now because of these tariffs.
That's a whole lot of assuming and making presuppositions about the state of things right now. Jake Tapper is working in service to Donald Trump. The question would be why? Is he trying to keep his job, or has he always been this closeted conservative type? We know that he had a show, like Scandal Makers type of show that he put out. I think they maybe are in multiple seasons now, where he admitted that he was a very good friend of Mark Sanford, the Republican former governor of South Carolina. And it was kind of in that moment that I realized, oh, Jake Tapper isn't this middle of the road journalist. He pals around with some of the worst Republicans. He's more of a Brett Baer character from Fox News than he is a decent and good objective journalist. And we witnessed that when he wrote the book, his hit piece on Joe Biden. Now he's silent about the cognition of Donald Trump, but made, who knows, untold hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars with Alex Thompson from Axios writing that hit piece on Joe Biden. So CNN is really just not to be trusted. They've got a few characters over there. I don't mean characters as a pejorative, but they've got a few people who do very good work in the organization. Jake Tapper is just not one of them. He is absolutely a hack who is sitting here attacking for the benefit of Donald Trump, for the benefit of the GOP, working in service to their agenda by attacking Doug Ford. And this is actually how the interview started. And it also contains an attack where he's mocking or calling into question the success of that particular ad about the tariffs, containing the words, the audio of Ronald Reagan from a radio address. And he asks him, if it was so successful, is the addition of 10% tariffs, is that also a success? Kind of just conceding that the attacks of Donald Trump are just the natural course of action and that Doug Ford looks like he brought it on himself.
Sir, so you said this morning that this was, quote, the most successful ad in the history of North America. Is the additional 10% tariff on Canadians also part of that success?
Well, first of all, Jake, thanks for having me on. I start off every interviewing saying that Canadians love Americans. I love America. I love Americans. I lived there for 20 years. And that my intention was to bring this to the American people and tell them that tariffs, protectionism does not work. Ronald Reagan was a free trader, the greatest president, in my opinion, ever. And we wanted to get the message out. And did the message get out? 100%. It had 11.4 billion with a B impressions. We talk in the media, but views around the world. And again, we just want to make sure that we work side by side with our closest friends and allies. A tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans. President Trump ran on creating more jobs. We've seen 5 consecutive months, manufacturing jobs are down. We've seen inflation go up. That's not what President Trump ran on. And we want to be the solution. And the way we get back on track is sign a deal with your largest number one customer in the world, and that's Canada.
It's sad when we have a Canadian politician, a conservative Canadian politician in Doug Ford, again, the premier of Ontario, the province of Ontario. And he's the one communicating the economic situation. He's the one talking about the detriment of American policy, not just on Canadians and Ontario itself, but on Americans, on American jobs, on the American economy, that people are feeling the pinch and the hurt right now. Not Donald Trump and his cronies, not his pals, not the oligarch class in the United States, not them. They're fine. They're billionaires. They're going to remain fine. It's people who work hard jobs. It's the working class, the blue collar segment of America, the poor, the working poor in America who are feeling it. But who does Jake Tapper take up for? The billionaires. Who does Jake Tapper defend? Donald Trump. Who does he assume that this attack, the increased tariff, that you should just have expected it? You brought this on yourself, Doug Ford. That is the framing of the question. That is the problem. I don't know. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, I guess. We'll end it there. I would solicit your conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me. I would love it if you would consider supporting this work. You can help me produce these videos for $2 a month. You can go to my Patreon page, which is patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. That doesn't just support the podcast, absolutely helps produce this content here, helping support independent media, which I maybe I'm biased. Certainly, I'm biased, but I believe it's very important, and you can take part in that. You can also become a channel member right on YouTube. Click the join button below this video, or over on my channel, just click join and see what's involved to become a channel member, and again, help out with the work we do. I love and appreciate you very much. I'll see you next time. Be genuine and take care of one another.